Shalom, brothers and sisters in Yahweh, and welcome. Welcome to our next study in the Book of Jasher. Tonight we'll be covering chapters 19, 20, and 21. So if you got a Dead Sea Scrolls book, go ahead and grab it, and we'll get started tonight. Grab yourself something to drink and get comfortable. This is going to be a really good study, okay? You're going to like this. Alright, gang. Well, I hope everybody's having a great week. Hope everything's going well for everyone. We're almost there. Almost to Shabbat. Just today and then tomorrow. Tomorrow's our day of preparation. So make sure that you go and get all your groceries and gas for the car and all the things that you need so that Shabbat can be your day of rest. You won't have anything pressing. It's a good thing. It's a blessing from Yahweh. Alright, gang. Let's go ahead and get started tonight. Yeah, I got my shmog on tonight, keeping my ears warm. You wouldn't believe how nice and warm a shmog is. They're pretty cool. Got my Hebrew on tonight. Alright, let's get started. Alright, the Book of Jasher, chapter 19. The cities of Sodom had 4 judges to 4 cities, and these were their names: Sirach in the city of Sodom, Sharkad in Gomorrah, Zebnach in Admah, and Menon in Zeboim. Eliezer, Abraham's servant, applied to them different names, and he converted Sirach to Shakara, Sharkad to Shakarorah, Zebnach to Kezobim, and Menon to Matzalodin. By desire of their 4 judges, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah had beds erected in the streets of the cities. And if a man came to these places, they laid hold of him and brought him to one of the beds, and by force made him to lie on them. These are some high-class people. Verse 4, as he lay down, 3 men would stand at his head, and 3 at his feet, and measure him by the length of the bed. If the man was less than the bed, these 6 men would stretch him at each end, and when he cried out to them, they would not answer him. If he was longer than the bed, they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end, until the man had reached the gates of death. And if he continued to cry out to them, they would answer him, saying, thus it shall be done to a man that comes into our land. When men heard all these things that the people of the cities of Sodom did, they refrained from going there. And when a poor man came to their land, they would give him silver and gold, and cause a proclamation in the whole city, not to give him a morsel of bread to eat. If the stranger should remain there some days, and die from hunger, not having been able to obtain a morsel of bread, then at his death all the people of the city would come and take their silver and gold which they had given him. Yeah, there's some real high-class folks here. Verse 9, those that could recognize the silver and gold which they had given him took it back, and at his death they also stripped him of his garments, and they would fight about them. He that prevailed over his neighbor took them. After that, they would carry him and bury him under some of the shrubs in the desert. So they did all the days to anyone that came to them and died in their land. And in the course of time, Sarah sent Eleazar to Sodom to see Lot and inquire after his welfare. Eleazar went to Sodom, and he met a man of Sodom fighting with a stranger. And the man of Sodom stripped the poor man of all his clothes and went away. And this poor man cried to Elzur, and begged his favor on account of what the man of Sodom had done to him. He said to him, "Why do you act thus to the poor man who came to your land?" The man of Sodom answered Elzur, saying, Is this man your brother? Or have the people of Sodom made you judge this day, that you speak about this man? Elzur strove with the man of Sodom on account of the poor man. And when Elzur approached to recover the poor man's clothes from the man of Sodom, he hurried, and with a stone struck Elzur in the forehead. The blood flowed copiously from Elzur's forehead, and when the man saw the blood, he caused hold of Elzur, saying, "Give me my wage, for having rid you of this bad blood that was in your forehead, for such is the custom and the law in our land." And Elzur said to him, "You have wounded me, and require me to pay you your wage?" Elzur would not listen to the words of the man of Sodom. And the man laid hold of Elzur, and brought him to Shachorah, the judge of Sodom, for judgment. The man spoke to the judge, saying, I beseech you, my lord, thus has this man done. For I struck him with a stone, that the blood flowed from his forehead, and he is unwilling to give me my wage." And the judge said to Elzur, "This man speaks truth to you. Give him his wage, for this is the custom in our land." Elzur heard the words of the judge, and he lifted up a stone, and struck the judge. The stone struck on his forehead, and the blood flowed copiously from the forehead of the judge. And Elzur said, "If this then is the custom in your land, give to this man what I should have given him, for this has been your decision. You did decree it." That was good. And Elzur left the man of Sodom with the judge, and he went away. When the king of Elam had made war with the kings of Sodom, the kings of Elam captured all the property of Sodom, and they took Lot captive with his property. And when it was told to Abraham, he went and made war with the kings of Elam. He recovered from their hands all the property of Lot, as well as the property of Sodom. At that time the wife of Lot gave birth to a daughter, and he called her name Paltith, saying, because Yahweh had delivered him and his whole household from the king of Elam. Paltith, daughter of Lot, grew up, and one of the men of Sodom took her for a wife. And a poor man came into the city to seek a maintenance, and he remained in the city some days. And all the people of Sodom caused a proclamation of their custom not to give this man a morsel of bread to eat until he dropped dead on the earth. And they did so. And Paltith, the daughter of Lot, saw this man lying in the street, starved with hunger, and no one would give him anything to keep him alive. He was just on the point of death. And her soul was filled with pity on account of the man, and she fed him secretly with bread for many days, and the soul of this man was revived. For when she went forth to fetch water, she would put the bread in the water pitcher, and when she came to the place where the poor man was, she took the bread from the pitcher and gave it him to eat. So she did many days. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah wondered how this man could bear starvation for so many days. And they said to each other, "This can only be because he eats and drinks, for no man can bear starvation for so many days or live as this man has, without even his countenance changing." 3 men concealed themselves in a place where the poor man was stationed, to know who it was that brought him bread to eat. Paltith, daughter of Lot, went forth that day to fetch water, and she put bread into her pitcher of water. She went to draw water by the poor man's place, and took out the bread from the pitcher, and gave it to the poor man, and he ate it. And the 3 men saw that Paltith did to the poor man, and they said to her, "It is you then who have supported him, and therefore he is not starved, nor changed in appearance, nor died like the rest." The 3 men went out of the place in which they were concealed, and they seized Paltith, and the bread which was in the poor man's hand. They took Paltith and brought her before their judges, and they said to them, Thus did she do, and it is she who supplied the poor man with bread. Therefore he did not die all this time. Now therefore declare to us the punishment due to this woman for having gone contrary to our law. And the people of Sodom and Gomorrah assembled and set a blaze of fire in the street of the city. And they took the woman and cast her into the fire, and she was burned to ashes. In the city of Admah there was a woman to whom they did the same. For a traveler came into the city of Admah to stay there all night, with the intention of going home in the morning. He sat opposite the door of the house of the young woman's father, to remain there, as the sun had set when he had reached that place. The young woman saw him sitting by the door of the house. He asked her for a drink of water, and she said to him, Who art you? And he said to her, I was this day going on the road, and reached here when the sun set. So I will stay here all night, and in the morning I will arise early and continue my journey. And the young woman went into the house and fetched the man bread and water to eat and drink. This affair became known to the people of Admah, and they assembled and brought the young woman before the judges, that they should judge her for this act. And the judge said, The judgment of death must pass on this woman because she went contrary to our law, and this therefore is the decision concerning her. The people of those cities assembled and brought out the young woman, and anointed her with honey from head to foot, as the judge had decreed. And they placed her before a swarm of bees, which were then in their hives, and the bees flew on her, and stung her, that her whole body was swelled. The young woman cried out on account of the bees, but no one took notice of her or pitied her, and her cries ascended to heaven. And the Elohim was provoked at this and at all the works of the cities of Sodom, for they had abundance of food, and had tranquility among them, and still would not sustain the poor and the needy. In those days their evil doings and sins became great before the Elohim. The Elohim sent for 2 of the angels that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. And the angels rose up from the door of Abraham's tent, after they had eaten and drunk, and they reached Sodom in the evening. And Lot was then sitting in the gate of Sodom. When he saw them, he arose to meet them, and he bowed down to the ground. He welcomed them greatly and brought them into his house, and he gave them food which they ate, and they stayed all night in his house. And the angel said to Lot, Arise, go forth from this place, you and all belonging to you, that you not be consumed in the iniquity of this city, for the Elohim will destroy this place. The angels laid hold on the hand of Lot, and on the hand of his wife, and on the hands of his children, and all belonging to him, and they brought him forth, and set him outside of the cities. And they said to Lot, Escape for your life. He fled, and all belonging to him. And the Elohim rained on Sodom and on Gomorrah, and on all these cities, brimstone and fire from the Elohim out of heaven. And he overthrew these cities, all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew on the ground. Ado, the wife of Lot, looked back to see the destruction of the cities, for her compassion was moved on account of her daughters who remained in Sodom, for they did not go with her. And when she looked back, she became a pillar of salt, and it is yet in that place to this day. The oxen which stood in that place daily licked up the salt to the extremities of their feet, and in the morning it would spring forth afresh, and they again licked it up to this day. Lot and two of his daughters that remained with him fled and escaped to the cave of Adullam, and they remained there for some time. And Abraham rose up early in the morning to see what had been done to the cities of Sodom. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the cities going up like the smoke of a furnace. Lot and his two daughters remained in the cave, and they made their father drink wine, and they lay with him. For they said there was no man on earth that could produce descendants for them, for they thought that the whole earth was destroyed. They both lay with their father and conceived and gave birth to sons. The firstborn called the name of her son Moab, saying, From my father did I conceive him. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger also called her son Benammi. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. So now we know, along with what the Bible said, and what Enoch said, and what Jubilee said, here's another witness to knowing that the sons of Lot are Moab and Ammon, those two tribes that are in Canaan. Yeah. Verse 60, after this, Lot and his two daughters went away from there, and he lived on the other side of the Jordan with his two daughters and their sons. And the sons of Lot grew up, and they went and took themselves wives from the land of Canaan, and they had children, and they were prolific and multiplied. Chapter 20. At that time Abraham journeyed from the plain of Mamre, and he went to the land of the Philistines, and he lived in Gerar. It was in the 25th year of Abraham being in the land of Canaan, and the 100th year of the life of Abraham, that he came to Gerar in the land of the Philistines. And when they entered the land, he said to Sarah his wife, Say you are my sister, to anyone that shall ask you, in order that we may escape the evil of the inhabitants of the land. As Abraham was dwelling in the land of the Philistines, the servants of Abimelech, king of the Philistines, saw that Sarah was greatly beautiful, and they asked Abraham concerning her. And he said, She is my sister. And the servants of Abimelech went to Abimelech, saying, A man from the land of Canaan is come to dwell in the land, and he has a sister that is exceeding fair. Abimelech heard the words of his servants, who praised Sarah to him. And Abimelech sent his officers, and they brought Sarah to the king. And Sarah came to the house of Abimelech. The king saw that Sarah was beautiful, and she pleased him greatly. And he approached her and said to her, What is that man to you, to whom you did come to our land? And Sarah answered and said, He is my brother. We came from the land of Canaan to dwell wherever we could find a place. Abimelech said to Sarah, Behold, my land is before you. Place your brother in any part of this land that pleases you, and it will be our duty to exalt and elevate him above all the people of the land, since he is your brother. And Abimelech sent for Abraham, and Abraham came to Abimelech. Abimelech said to Abraham, Behold, I have given orders that you shall be honored as you desire on account of your sister Sarah. And Abraham went forth from the king, and the king's present followed him, as at evening time, before men lay down to rest. The king was sitting on his throne, and a deep sleep fell on him, and he lay on the throne and slept till morning. He dreamed that an angel of the Elohim came to him with a drawn sword in his hand, and the angel stood over Abimelech, and wished to kill him with the sword. The king was terrified in his dream, and said to the angel, In what have I sinned against you, that you come to kill me with a sword? And the angel answered and said to Abimelech, Behold, you die on account of the woman which last night you brought to your house. For she is a married woman, the wife of Abraham, who came to your house. Now therefore return that man his wife, for she is his wife. Should you not return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all belonging to you. On that night there was a great outcry in the land of the Philistines, and the inhabitants of the land saw the figure of a man standing with a drawn sword in his hand, and he struck the inhabitants of the land with the sword. Yes, he continued to strike them. And the angel of the Elohim struck the whole land of the Philistines on that night. And there was great confusion on that night, and on the following morning. Every womb was closed, and all their issues, and the hand of the Elohim was on them on account of Sarah, wife of Abraham, whom Abimelech had taken. And in the morning Abimelech rose with terror and confusion and with a great dread. He sent and had his servants called in. He related his dream to them, and the people were greatly afraid. One man standing among the servants of the king answered the king, saying, O sovereign king, restore this woman to her husband, for he is her husband. For the same happened to the king of Egypt when this man came to Egypt. You guys understand what's going on here, right? Elohim is making himself known to these tribes, these heathens. He's making himself known to them, that he is the Almighty. But they just freak out. This is actually really humorous. Verse 20, he said concerning his wife, she is my sister, for such is his manner of doing when he comes to dwell in the land in which he is a stranger. Pharaoh sent and took this woman for a wife, and the Elohim brought on him grievous plagues until he returned the woman to her husband. Now therefore, O sovereign king, know what happened last night to the whole land, for there was a great consternation and great pain and lamentation, and we know that it was on account of the woman which you did take. Now, therefore, restore this woman to her husband, that it should not happen to us as it did to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his subjects, and that we may not die. Abimelech hurried, and had Sarah called for, and she came before him. And he had Abraham called for, and he came before him. Abimelech said to them, What is this work you have been doing in saying you are brother and sister? And I took this woman for a wife. And Abraham said, Because I thought I would suffer death on account of my wife. And Abimelech took flocks and herds, and menservants and maidservants, and 1,000 pieces of silver, and he gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah to him. Abimelech said to Abraham, Behold, the whole land is before you. Dwell in it wherever you shall choose. And Abraham and Sarah his wife went forth from the king's presence with honor and respect, and they lived in the land, even in Gerar. All the inhabitants of the land of the Philistines and the king's servants were still in pain through the plague which the angel had inflicted on them the whole night on account of Sarah. Abimelech sent for Abraham, saying, Pray now for your servants to the Elohim, Yahweh, that he may put away this mortality from among us. And Abraham prayed on account of Abimelech and his subjects, and the Elohim heard the prayer of Abraham, and he healed Abimelech and all his subjects. The glory of Yah. He's proving himself to the heathens. Now the Egyptians know about him, and Abimelech and the Philistines know about him. And they got first-hand proof that Yah is the Elohim above all, the Most High. Kind of made an impression on him, didn't he? Chapter 21. It was at that time, the end of the year and 4 months of Abraham dwelling in the land of the Philistines in Gerar, that Yahweh visited Sarah, and the Elohim remembered her, and she conceived and gave birth to a son, to Abraham. Abraham called the name of the son which Sarah gave birth to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac at 8 days old, as Yahweh had commanded Abraham to do to his descendants after him. Abraham was 100, and Sarah 90 years old, when Isaac was born to them. The child grew up and was weaned, And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Shem and Eber. Shem, the son of Noah, and Eber, his son. Okay? So see what's going on here? Yeah, the Hebrews. And all the great people of the land, and Abimelech, king of the Philistines, and his servants, and Philcol, the captain of his host, came to eat and drink and rejoice at the feast which Abraham made on the day of his son Isaac's being weaned. Also Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor his brother, came from Haran, they and all their belonging to them, for they greatly rejoiced on hearing that a son had been born to Sarah. They came to Abraham, and they ate and drank at the feast which Abraham made on the day of Isaac's being weaned. Terah and Nahor rejoiced with Abraham, and they remained with him many days in the land of the Philistines. At that time Serug, the son of Reu, died, in the first year of the birth of Isaac, son of Abraham. And all the days of Serug were 239 years, and he died. Ishmael, the son of Abraham, was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old when Sarah gave birth to Isaac, to Abraham. And Yahweh was with Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and he grew up, and he learned to use the bow, and became an archer. When Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite to him, and he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to kill Isaac. Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Isaac, and it grieved her greatly on account of her son. She sent for Abraham and said to him, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do to him this day." Abraham listened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning. He took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness. They lived in the wilderness of Paran, with the inhabitants of the wilderness. Ishmael was an archer, and he lived in the wilderness a long time. He and his mother afterward went to the land of Egypt, and they lived there. Hagar took a wife for her son from Egypt, and her name was Meribah. And the wife of Ishmael conceived, and gave birth to 4 sons and 2 daughters. Ishmael and his mother, and his wife and children, afterward went and returned to the wilderness. They made themselves tents in the wilderness, in which they lived, and they continued to travel, and then to rest monthly and yearly. And Yahweh gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on account of Abraham his father, and the man increased in cattle. Ishmael lived in deserts and in tents, traveling and resting for a long time, and he did not see the face of his father. Some time later, Abraham said to Sarah his wife, "I will go and see my son Ishmael, for I have a desire to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time." Abraham rode on one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael, for he heard that he was dwelling in a tent in the wilderness with all belonging to him. Abraham went to the wilderness and reached the tent of Ishmael about noon, and he asked after Ishmael. He found the wife of Ishmael sitting in the tent with her children, and Ishmael her husband and his mother were not with them. Abraham asked the wife of Ishmael, saying, "Where has Ishmael gone?" And she said, "He has gone to the field to hunt." Abraham was still mounted on the camel, for he would not get off to the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah that he would not get off from the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, "My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey." And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, "We have neither water nor bread." She continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her husband Ishmael and reproached him. Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent, and the woman came and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted on the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, "When your husband Ishmael returns home, say these words to him: A very old man from the land of the Philistines came here to seek you, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing you were not here, he spoke to me and said, 'When Ishmael your husband returns, tell him thus did this man say, when you come home, put away this nail of your tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead.'" Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he turned and went off on the camel homeward. After that Ishmael came from the hunt by him and his mother, and returned to the tent, and his wife spoke these words to him: "A very old man from the land of the Philistines came to see you, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing you were not at home, he said to me, 'When your husband comes home, tell him, thus says the old man, put away the nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead.'" Ishmael heard the words of his wife, and he knew that it was his father, and that his wife did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words, that he had spoken to his wife, and Ishmael listened to the voice of his father. Ishmael cast off that woman, and she went away. Ishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan, and he took another wife, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then lived. And at the end of 3 years Abraham said, "I will go again and see Ishmael my son, for I have not seen him for a very long time." He rode on his camel and went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. He asked after Ishmael, and his wife came out of the tent and said, "He is not here, my lord, for he is gone to hunt in the fields, and to feed the camels." And the woman said to Abraham, "Turn in, my lord, into the tent, and eat a morsel of bread, for your soul must be wearied on account of the journey." And Abraham said to her, "I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey, but give me a little water to drink, for I have thirst." The woman hurried and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Abraham, which she placed before him, and she urged him to eat. He ate and drank, and his heart was comforted, and he blessed his son Ishmael. He finished his meal, and he blessed the Elohim. And he said to Ishmael's wife, "When Ishmael comes home, say these words to him: A very old man from the land of the Philistines came here and asked after you, and you were not here. And I brought out bread and water, and he ate and drank. His heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me: When Ishmael your husband comes home, say to him, the nail of the tent which you have is very good. Do not put it away from the tent." And Abraham finished commanding the woman, and he rode off to his home to the land of the Philistines. And when Ishmael came to his tent, his wife went forth to meet him with joy and a cheerful heart. And she said to him, "An old man came here from the land of the Philistines, and thus was his appearance. And he asked after you, and you were not here. So I brought out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me: When Ishmael your husband comes home, say to him, the nail of the tent which you have is very good. Do not put it away from the tent." Ishmael knew that it was his father, and that his wife had honored him, and the Elohim blessed Ishmael. And that's the end of 21. That's a good story. That's a good story. We're missing a few parts about what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah with the angels, because the inhabitants of Sodom tried to rape the angels and were trying to bust down Lot's door to get to them. Yeah, there's a little bit missing there, but it's a good story. It really fills in a lot of about Ishmael's wives. Sounds like the first one was kind of a blech. He booted her out. And then the second one, she's a Canaanite. She's not a Mitzrayite, but she's a Canaanite. But at least she was nice to Abraham. Huh. Yeah, we got a little use out of our crayons tonight. Colored in some pictures. That was fun. That was a good study, gang. I hope y'all are enjoying this study. I know it's not scripture. I know. If you listen to the introduction, you know it's not too. But it's a good story. It's a Bible story. And it's a good story. And it fills in some of the pictures, so it makes it a little bit of a bigger story from the Bible. If you came and studied with us our Bible study in Genesis, then you know. You know what the Bible says. If you did the Enoch study, you know what Enoch says. If you did the Jubilee study, then you know what Jubilee said. And they are both scriptorial. Even though the Catholic Church took them out. Yeah, Council of Nicaea. They didn't think we needed those books, so they took them out. But they're good stories. And Jasher's a good story too. Even though it leaves out some parts and pieces here and there, it's still a good story. And I thank you all for joining me to study this, to read it, and to enjoy it. Thank you all very much. You know, even if it's not scripture, you can still bring your kids. This is rated G for the most part. Bring your kids, bring your families. Gather together. Spend time together. Get them off their stupid phones and away from the dumb video games. Spend time with your children. It's a future that we need to think about, because their future is going to be so messed up. Think about it, gang. They're calling these kids Generation Beta. Not Alpha, Beta. My generation is Gen X. The generation that came after me, my kids, are millennials. My youngest happens to be Gen Z, because she was born in 2004. So she's Gen Z. But they already know that those kids are screwed up because they did it on purpose. They messed them up in the schools and society. But now, instead of going to Generation Alpha, they skip Generation Alpha because they don't want anybody alpha. They don't want any leaders. They don't want anybody independent thinking. They don't want any of that. They want betas. And they found out from the millennials how easy it is to turn them all beta. Look at all the beta males with their tight jeans and their little feminine walk and, yeah, little girly boys. Lots of them. So they know how to make these betas. So they're calling the entire generation Generation Beta, because they're going to make them transhuman through the use of AI. Yeah, they're going to program these kids with AI. So they're going to be beta, the entire generation. Think about it. Use your brain, do a little bit of thought. It makes sense. It sucks, but it makes sense. Prevent it. Prevent it from happening. Take those gizmos and gadgets away from them and make them grow up as kids. Yeah, it's going to take some effort. Yeah, you might have to spend some time with them. But if you want your children to be good, solid adults, you probably ought to. Alright, gang. That's all I got. I'm done tugging on your ear. It's important. It's important. Thanks for joining me. Y'all have a good rest of your week. And I pray that we see you on Shabbat. All right? May Yahweh bless each and every one of you. Pray. Give thanks. Give praise to the Lord. Praise Yahweh, the Elohim. You guys have a good night now, and we will see you later. Shalom.